Special guest for you today. We've gone through the election, we've gone through chaos, we've gone through love, we've gone through all kinds of different emotions. And what I pride myself and this network in doing is bringing a variety of different subjects to you, the people of Waterbury in the area. It came to my attention that this gentleman was coming to the Waterbury area, and I immediately realized that we have a gem among us. So, without further adu, because we have a very, very complicated subject that we're going to talk about tonight, I'd like to introduce you to Karim k.el.koussa. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Very, very well, thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Welcome to the United States.
Thank you.
Welcome to Waterbury. And I want to talk about the book that this Karim, which I asked him if I could use his first name, and he said yes, k.el.koussa wrote. I did glance through it, and being of Lebanese background, as you all know that I am, it came to my attention immediately how little that I know. Unfortunately, I must admit that many, many times. What you're talking about in this book is the Phoenicians.
Exactly.
And we're talking about a time before Christ.
That's right.
We're also talking about an area that encompasses from Egypt almost all the way to what we call modern Europe.
Exactly.
So it's a vast, vast area. Sidon, which we know of today, which you refer to as the area of the fishermen, Sidon meaning fishermen, is an area that I have gone to, which is in the southern part of Lebanon.
Yes.
Actually, it's almost near the border between Israel and Lebanon.
That's
very famous.
Yeah.
I have a multitude of questions. First of all, who did you write this book for?
Well, actually, I was thinking about writing this book to the English-speaking world, because I think the English language is a universal language, and we have to reach it with this book.
Interesting, except no exceptions. No exceptions, but the book is very complicated. When you talk before Christ, in most arenas, the educational arena, which is where you're from and what you do, you have to be targeting a certain audience. The average person will not understand this. So are you talking about directing this book towards the university student, the professors? Who would you like to learn from this book?
Yeah, it's a book written for the students and universities and for professors, and it is also directed to the general audience, because it has we're talking in it about the rich culture of the Phoenicians, our Canaan-Phoenician culture, and people in the States they don't have any information on this culture. We're trying to promote this culture as powerfully in this book. And we're trying to say that Pythagoras, it is known as a Greek scientist and philosopher. In this book, I'm trying to say that he is of Phoenician origin.
But the Phoenicians, for our audience, and certainly for me as well, Phoenicians were people before what we know of as Assyrians, Lebanese, Syria. They were way before this, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Now, they don't exist any longer, correct?
The Lebanese, you can say that the Lebanese nowadays are descendants from the Phoenicians. Yeah.
What did we learn from the Phoenicians, and why are they important to us today?
I think the Phoenicians invented the alphabet, and without the alphabet, we don't read and we don't write. And the Phoenicians invented the trade industry, and they invented also the barter way of. They also colonized the whole Mediterranean world. They were rich in theology, they were rich in science, they were rich in everything, in almost everything.
In the book, you talk about the area from the Phoenicians where there are many, many different religions all culminated together and lived harmoniously, which wouldn't that be a great thing today?
Yeah.
Anyways, what religions are you talking about that were existing that time? If we're talking before Christ, then we have no Christianity we're discussing.
Exactly.
The Muslim religion is only 600 or 700 years.
Yes.
So what kind of religion, besides pagan religions, were we talking about?
It's
Or what?
the Phoenician religion. It was all around the Mediterranean world.
What did they believe in?
They had, they have a kind of religion. They believed in monotheism. Even Egyptians took monotheism from the Phoenician culture, and they spread it all around the world. They believed in the Trinity. They used to have a Trinity in the Phoenician, but they called Phoenician pagan as a propaganda, which I don't understand why.
Pagan, for me, is a word, a person or a group of people that don't believe in God.
No, I don't think so.
Is it, what describe a paganist for me?
I don't call Phoenician religion as paganism.
Okay.
I don't call it, because they believe in one God, and they believe in his son Adonis, or Baal, who die and resurrect after 3 days. It's almost the same as Christianity, and Christianity, I think, took a lot of ideas from Phoenician religion.
So you think that the Christian religion, I'm not going to use the word based because that's impossible, but you think that some of the followings of the Phoenician religion
that's
were...
That's what I believe in, yes.
That's interesting.
We have evidence
That's interesting.
for that. Yeah, we have evidence for that.
You do? What evidence?
I mean, we just can talk about this.
No, I'm just curious about that, because what we have in our audience that we know in and around the Waterbury area, we have a very large Catholic audience. We have many, many Muslims that live in our area. We have a great many Jewish people that live in our area. We have a new influx of Hasidic Jews coming in from other parts of the country, which we're very welcoming to have. So we have a wonderful, wonderful array of different religious backgrounds right here in the
Exactly,
city.
that's what I noticed.
So it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's really America at its very finest, as far as I'm concerned. We're very fortunate that we can live in the city of Waterbury and the surrounding towns, and we have no one saying you can't walk on the street because of a religion or anything like this, which there are in other parts of the world. That's my curiosity. It certainly isn't taxing you on your thoughts. We're all interested in religion.
Exactly.
Of course, when we see the world being blown up by religious nonsense.
Exactly.
So my question is, what do you bank, what you're talking about, the Phoenician beliefs? We'll take the word religion out. Beliefs, what they have on Catholicism. How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, I believe that the Christian religion is based on the idea of death and resurrection.
Yes.
And we have this idea in the Phoenician religion, in the Phoenician theology. The death of Adonis or Baal, the son of El, the high god, and his resurrection after 3 days. It is also the symbol of the phoenix, who rise from his ashes after 3 days. We have also the idea of Trinity that we have in Christianity. We have it also in the Phoenician religion. We have El, Anat the second, and Adonis the third. We have also many other issues that we have to keep it for another subject. We have to keep it for another book.
Certainly. Well, that's very, very, I'm sure, because this is a very small book as far as the subject. The
Yeah.
subject is incredibly vast, and it's a great book, and we're going to plug the book. And we're going to plug the book for a variety of reasons. As I just said, that for Karim k.el.koussa, if you just turned in late, this gentleman is visiting us from the country of Lebanon, and he's an author, and he's come to this area to promote not only the book, but to promote education
Exactly.
in the Middle East. Because other than what's going on in Iraq today, and what we've heard, of course, we had Desert Storm, which is caused also in the Middle East. There's a lot of negativity coming out of the Middle East, and certainly there's a lot of history, a lot of beauty, and a lot of education
That's right.
in the Middle East, in every single part of it. So I think that people like Mr. k.el.koussa have come to the United States, perhaps maybe to enlighten us on some of the beginnings that we have no idea, really and truly.
Yeah.
They don't teach history this far back in most of our schools. We have modern history. As you know, we're such a young country. in comparison to where you're coming
Yeah,
from.
exactly.
And it's difficult for my audience, me, you, everyone else, to think thousands. And I was reading, and you're talking, 3,000, 2,000. It's very, very difficult when you were talking simply of a country that's 200 years old. It's a big deal, 100 years. We're going to take a 1-minute break, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to continue an incredibly interesting conversation with Karim k.el.koussa, our guest from Lebanon. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to continue our conversation with this wonderful gentleman I have by my side, and it's Karim k.el.koussa. And I want to show you his book because we don't very often get an author from, because as we know, as I just said to Karim in the intermission, very, very few Americans, we're so busy with our lives, really realize how much culture and how much the Middle East has influenced every single solitary part of today. Europe, of course, when we talk about Venice and many other places. So what this gentleman did is he wrote a very, very interesting book. It's very slow reading because it's so interesting and it's so educational. But what we're doing is can you get this, Gordon? Is that good?
Perfect.
Okay, great. What we're doing is we're talking about a little of the history, how life began for all of us. And we're talking about the Phoenician people in Lebanon, which Lebanon, Egypt, a whole vast area. I don't want to take our little country and keep spreading it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in this, because this is just fascinating.
Well, I began writing poetry when I was 18 or 19. Then I began my first sci-fi novel I couldn't finish. And immediately, like 10 years ago, I published my first book in Lebanon, Reflecting Unitas. It's about religion, philosophy, history, combining it all together. But when I met Pythagoras, I got interested with the subject, and I wanted to write this book. And I was excited when I found out that he was of Phoenician origin and not a Greek scientist. Exactly, and this is what pushed me to do the book. Usually they say that Pythagoras was a Greek. I'm trying to say in this book that he was of Phoenician origin. I gathered a lot of information about Pythagoras, and I found many other references on it. And I gathered pieces of a puzzle together, so I came out with this book. And he was also the first philosopher and the first mathematician.
That's what the name of the book is.
Yeah, it's mathemagician. So I invented this word, combining mathematics with magic.
It's fine, it's your
book. So I came with this mathematician word. When he was doing a sermon in Italy, where he founded his white city and his school, initiating people into the mysteries of life, they asked him if he were the wise person, the wise man, because before Pythagoras they used to call the wise men sages or wise. When they asked him, he told them, "I am not the wise man, I am the philosophia, or lover of wisdom, philosopher," and became the word. So this book is dedicated to Lebanon, the birthplace of philosophy.
That's quite well, I know that there's great, great authors in Lebanon, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. But so many Americans, I think so many people all over the world, I'm not just going to say Americans, know of k.el.,
Yeah.
He's written, I don't know how many, I think there's maybe 15 works. We all know The Prophet,
Probably,
because
yeah.
that's the most popular.
Exactly.
But 15 or more books that he wrote. And when you go to Lebanon, those of us who have been fortunate, there's a beautiful monument to him in his home. And it's unfortunate because we don't know a lot of other great authors from this little tiny, wonderfully beautiful country. So it's very nice of you to come to the United States.
Thank you.
Are you working to speak at any of the universities in our area?
Well, I'm trying to.
You are?
Yeah.
And what do you do in Lebanon? Do you just write books, or do you work?
Yeah.
You're not in
That's
education?
That's my job.
Well, that's quite nice, actually. But this must take a lot of work and a lot of studying.
Exactly.
Where do you live in Lebanon?
In Eden, North Lebanon.
So tell us a little bit about your hometown. Tell us a little bit about your
It's
city.
a beautiful village. surrounded by beautiful mountains, and the Kadisha Valley, the Sacred Valley. And just after the Sacred Valley, we have the hometown of Khalil Gibran.
So it's not very far.
No,
So you're quite influenced, I'm sure.
Exactly.
I'm sure. Well, you know, it's nice. Are you traveling through the United States with your book?
Yeah.
And now the books...
Only on the East Coast.
Only the East Coast.
Yeah.
Now, the books before you wrote this book, does that have anything to do with the Phoenician history, or tell us a little bit about what you did getting up until this? I find this fascinating, but it's truly a historic book.
Yeah.
More than something that you're just going to read.
Yeah,
this is history.
History, philosophy, religion, spirituality, biography. These are the categories of the book.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
How much work did you put into writing this book?
Like 2 years or 3 years.
It had to be a very, very long time. What did you write before this? What kind of writings?
Reflecting Unitas, as I said, was my first book, an essay on religion, philosophy, history. Then I wrote another book, Blooming Plains. It's a quest for historical and spiritual identity in Lebanon. Then I came with this book, and my first book is Mystery of the Alphabet, also talking about the Phoenician alphabet.
How much of your beliefs, your personal beliefs, I know that you did great research on this book. There's no doubt that you can't write a book like this without tremendous time of research. But how much of your own beliefs, or how much have you changed your beliefs into writing this book? How do you feel about the history and the philosophy and the religious beliefs in Lebanon? Do you think they've changed over thousands of years? Have they grown? Have they stayed the same? How do you feel?
Yeah, everything evolves. I think everything evolves. Evolution is the law of the universe. Everything evolves and changes by time. I think Christianity has has in it the idea of the Phoenician and the Pythagoreanism also, and that's it.
In Lebanon, I want to ask you this question. In Lebanon, I won't use the word primary, but I will say the majority. There's always a majority of something. The majority of residents that live in this country of Lebanon, which are not all Lebanese. And that's important to understand that question. The people that live in Lebanon are not necessarily Lebanese. They're Lebanese born.
Yeah.
But there are many people from other parts of the Middle East that live in Lebanon. This is why I was asking this question specifically. The major religion is not Catholicism any longer. Is it true? Is it?
It's Maronite.
It's
Christian. Maronite Christian. It's Catholic.
Okay, it's Catholic, but there are many, many Muslims that also live in Lebanon.
Yeah.
And they do a pretty good job of cohabitating, do they not?
Exactly.
And
Lebanon was always like that.
well, Lebanon.
Even the Phoenician time, at the Phoenician time, there were people, Roman people, Greek people, Phoenician, Egyptian living in Phoenicia. And this is Lebanon today.
Isn't it not true that the Lebanese people in your time of writing this book and our fathers and our grandfathers up to today, they're really people that are merchants. That's what they do. They sell and they want to. And they really are not warriors, shall we?
Never.
They're philosophers.
Exactly.
Their education. You hear of Lebanese people all over the world that are, I won't say just doctors and lawyers, what I'll say that they're people who are very, very bright, like yourself, coming throughout. How do you see the future of Lebanon? I mean,
I'm very positive.
You're very positive.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be influenced by what's going on in the Middle East and the war-torn areas?
I think it's about time for Lebanon to resurrect.
And how do you think that's going to happen?
As the phoenix.
You do think? Oh, how beautiful. That's a wonderful statement to make. But how do you think that's going to happen? Do you think the people are unified in keeping Lebanon pure?
They have to. There's no other way.
Democracy. Lebanon is a democratic country.
Yeah.
So the voting is not a problem. You're not going to go and get, unfortunately, what's happened in other parts of the world that they're fearful of going and voting. That's not true in Lebanon at all. Yeah. And you have a wonderful way of, I don't want to get off your book, but it follows the train of thought. You have a wonderful way of balancing the political system. Do you not if a president is elected, am I true in saying this? That's a Maronite. Then the second in charge is a Muslim, a Sunni Muslim, and vice versa. If that happens, or
no, it's only the president always.
Is they always Christian?
Always a Christian.
That's interesting. But there is a balance of power where everyone feels represented,
exactly.
which is very, very important. And do you think that they came through the centuries with the philosophy from the Phoenicians of peace and keeping everybody on track? Do you think that's where it came from?
I don't think they have realized exactly our history. There's a lack.
There is.
There is.
Why don't other countries in Lebanon, because Lebanon is only as big as Rhode Island. It's a state right next to Connecticut, if you're not familiar with it. It's a rather small state. And it was described to me that Lebanon, the whole country, is very small in distance. Very big banking. Very wonderful for tourists. Wonderful history. You have Baalbek and you have...
Yeah, we have 9,000 years of history.
That you can walk. You can walk it. I mean, there's no walled cities to speak of. You can walk it and feel comfortable and walk where maybe Jesus walked.
The first urban city was in Jebel, in Byblos.
It was.
7,000 years BC.
Can't even fathom that. This is a country, ladies and gentlemen, that truly, truly was the beginning of history.
Yeah.
Why haven't some of the other countries in the area followed suit and tried to be as peace-loving as Lebanon? Is it power?
Well, I don't know.
No. Well, I'll answer that. It's probably it's probably just that Lebanon is a little island among the sea of problems.
Yeah.
How does that sound? We have 2 minutes left, and it goes by so quickly. But I wanted to just tell our audience again because I was fascinated. A friend of mine bought this at the church yesterday. You were at the Lebanese Lady of Lebanon Church yesterday speaking, and you had a book signing there.
Exactly.
And someone purchased your book and brought it to me today, and I quickly was going through it. And really, ladies and gentlemen, I find it difficult going back hundreds, thousands of years because it's difficult to realize that. But Karim k.el.koussa wrote this book, and it's very, very interesting. It's clear, it's easy to read, and you know what? If you don't know where we came from, we certainly do not have a future. So when people come to our country, to our city, to our town, and our villages from far, far away, it's nice to welcome them and say thank you very much for educating us. So personally, I'd like to say thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
You're a wonderful Lebanese
Thank you so
man.
much.
I love Lebanese men. You know I love Lebanese men. You're wonderful. You're fabulous. And you know what? Congratulations. I hope you do very well on this. And thank you very much for educating me and some of the greatest people in the whole wide world out there in the audience. And thanks to Joey McCary, because Joey McCary always seems to come up with some wonderful things for us in the city of Waterbury. So I'll say good night. Thank you very, very much. And I'm glad you enjoyed our guests.